Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Fair Exchange, written by Weekly Faithlessness Zero. When I was growing up, my father took me down to the city shipyard to show me a ship that he was helping build. When we got there, he told me to look up. I was completely awestruck. It was nothing I had ever seen before. It looked like it could reach the sky. It was so tall. When we walked around the front, I looked down the shipyard, and I saw something even more amazing. There was no end to the ship. It was so long. It was a huge project for civilization like ours, but nothing for them. These off-worlders who had come with the promise of prosperity. When they came to our planet, our great nation was the only one to welcome them. All 56 others decided that them and their empires were too good for these people who came from the stars. They were openly hostile. But not us. We were the only friendly ones. We discovered shortly thereafter that they were after a resource that was not yet useful to us in our current steam-powered state. So we accepted the offer. The exchange wasn't usual. It didn't involve any currency, but promises. If these people of the stars were such great builders, they could do what they say. Besides, with the technological disparity, there was little in the way of refusing. Or so we thought. The promise they made in exchange for this thing they called black gold or oil was not only help with technology and society, but the greatest merchant marine this world had ever seen. They were strong proponents of peace, so warships were out of the question. Instead, they guaranteed our protection in case the new envoy of the world they were going to give us started anything with the more hostile foreign empires. At the docks of the great coastal city, Port Wolford, they began to build, and in the endless plains of Norau, they started digging. The logistical finesse was truly something we all learned from. Their ruthless efficiency, no doubt honed over 1,000 years, shined brightly in the construction of these giant ships and the transport of their newly found goods. With the promise of technology, they showed us some things that in hindsight should have been no-brainers to come up with. They gave us the knowledge to create steel, an alloy so strong that it could hold up buildings far taller than the greatest iron constructions that we were so proud of not even a year prior. They helped us build better sewer systems, which helped improve the sanitation, even in the grimmest of industrial districts. They helped us research our medicine and created cures for deadly diseases that had been haunting us for millennia. They gave us an ever-efficient power grid with a great generator that also reached the sky, which allowed for power even in the summits of the great Orcs range. They held up their end of the promise and helped us fulfill our end too. We offered to help with finding their oil, and they accepted, taking along a few to show them their equipment and how they found these oil wells. We believed that we had truly mastered our corner of the world, but instead, they did it for us and taught us how to tame it even further. Some smaller, more personal exchanges happened between us and these builders from the stars, which was surprising. They had figured out the exchange rate for our currencies by the time our skies and borders opened up for these off-worlders, and so our economies went forth and began intermingling. They gave us their money, and we gave them our goods. We would then use their money to buy goods of private merchants or at their very newly built spaceport, and some of them would also take us up beyond the sky to show us the vastness and beauty of our own world, and the wonders they had built in the vastness between the stars. The strangest thing, however, is that our domesticated animals seemed like the most popular merchandise. They were never too popular with our people, since there was always work to be done in the shops, the factories, and the streets. You may find a few domesticated animals hanging around very niche and expensive shops, where the owner would know most of their customers on a personal level. But these people, they seemed to love our pets so much that it boomed the pet industry so greatly that our own people even started to buy some, just to see what was so awesome about them that the Oathworlders wanted so much. However, not all was sunshine and rainbows. There was a very good reason why we accepted this merchant marine deal. It was because we have barely been making enough food for our own population, and had to import much of it. When the Deathworlders took note of this, however, they offered to help us again, at no greater cost than financial. So we accepted, curious to see what they would do, and by the earth, they did a lot. Our fields ran along rivers which would often flood, so the Deathworlders demonstrated their true mastery of nature and how they could bend any environment to their will. They built a great wall to hold off the mighty Agro, which ran through the Grand Humber Valley. This did come at a cost, though. It flooded much of the land behind the wall itself, but at least it ensured that no others would be taken by the many floods. When we wondered how this would help with our food situation, they showed us. They used the water to create an irrigation system on a scale that we had never imagined, which created a gigantic harvest the next year. This giant water wall also served as a station to produce electricity, necessary for the winters to come in the more remote places. We could finally heat the small mountain villages and also grant them a better supply of water for their steam heaters. We also told them that our cattle farming was at a low point too, and our people needed the meat to work the factories and mines, and they helped us with that too. Expanding the cattle sector would take a long time, so instead of magically growing more cattle, which seemed out of the capabilities, they carefully and steadily imported their own animal products. It was in this little era of food trade that we discovered that many foods and eating cultures they had, which many people quickly started looking up to and following. We came to learn that the name they called themselves by is human, but it was inevitable that it became synonymous with Deathworlder or Great Builder. The many I have coming to meet and exchange with tell me about the wonders they built on their home planet, and the many other star-striding peoples of the galaxy. They say that when the time comes, they will introduce us to the wider Galactic Council properly, and the rest of them who haven't taken an interest in our primitive world. Some of these humans talked of others like they are threats, and that peace must be enforced by strength. With what they had shown and given us until now, I do believe that they have a mighty space-faring merchant fleet, and an even mightier navy. It became clear to other nations and empires that these humans came to help, and haven't once showed us any sign of hostility, so others began to ask for exchange and deals. Our greatest city, Port Wooford, had become a cultural exchange zone, and the city representing peace, prosperity, unity, and the everlasting golden age that humans would keep going. And all they wanted was that viscous black liquid. I wonder what for. End of story. Story number 2. Don't Touch the Ships, written by OK Peak 9537. The Rishar Empire was a galaxy-spanning empire that existed for more than 130 galactic years. What was unusual for our monospecies empire was our propensity to make allies. Our military doctrine was that of providing aid, use our allies as defense, and strike out with our military. The proverbial sword and shield. This worked for years, until it didn't. One of our allies, the Gear Boss, whose economy revolved around piracy and raiding, they decided to take a ship belonging to the Galactic Republic of America. The ship was unmanned, piloted by an extremely intelligent and powerful AI who was transporting fuel. We didn't know this at the time, but the AI gave our allies a warning. Apparently, there is a standard procedure under Sol military doctrine. Never touch America's ships. The cargo was looted and the ship scrapped. All was quiet for 3 weeks, till an emissary from another country from the Sol system of Great Britain came and asked for a meeting between the US America and the Gear Boss. This meeting, when it happened, was a disaster. America's demands were simple, in fact, laughably so. They only requested the return of their ship. The Gear Boss, who valued strength, laughed the American delegation out of the room. When I made my move to leave, however, the emissary from Great Britain stopped me and told me that if I valued my nation, I would not have our troops be sent anywhere near the front line of what was about to kick off. I never had the chance. Immediately following the meeting, the Americans had declared war on the Gearbus. Within 72 galactic hours, all of the Gearbus ship manufacturers were destroyed or occupied. Then the largest fleet swept into the system and completely wiped out the stragglers. Leaving only the planets alone, they asked the Gearbus to surrender. They refused. A standoff brewed for more than 2 weeks, with the Gearbus asking all of its other allies for aid. My people, at my advice, decided only to sell weapons and supplies. Our 7 other neighbors and allies, however, joined in on the battle. In return, a 3-month war took place upon trillions of miles of galactic space. When the dust cleared, only each nation's homeworld was left. Their holdings, merchant ships, were all seized, billions of lives snuffed out for one single ship. When the Gearbus finally did indeed surrender, with the remainder of our allies, America had decided to terms. America would occupy each nation's territory until it could rebuild to where it had been roughly before the conflict. But everyone would follow the Sol System rules. These rules had been laid down at a military convention in Geneva, and added to the rules were, don't touch the ships. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Light Jock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.